Good evening. Welcome to the Friday edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, another landmark court decision here at home and 3 terror attacks abroad. Dozens killed, including 1 man decapitated during attacks in France, Tunisia, and Kuwait. Were they coordinated, and are there more to come? More on that later. But first, another major decision from the Supreme Court. By a 5-4 vote, the court strikes down existing state bans on gay marriage. That means same-sex marriage is now the law of the land and legal in all 50 states. President Obama reacted shortly after the announcement, taking in essence his second victory lap in as many days.
And this ruling is a victory for America. This decision will end the patchwork system we currently have. It will end the uncertainty hundreds of thousands of same-sex couples face from not knowing whether their marriage, legitimate in the eyes of one state, will remain if they decide to move or even visit another. This ruling will strengthen all of our communities by offering to all loving same-sex couples the dignity of marriage across this great land.
For more on today's ruling, we're joined by Harvard Law professor and Newsmax blogger Alan Dershowitz. Alan, of course, is also the author of Terror Tunnels, the case for Israel's just war against Hamas. Alan joins us by phone and via Skype. We're pleased to be joined by the Executive Vice President of the American Family Association, the Reverend Edward Vitagliano. Gentlemen, to you both, thanks for your time here on Newsmax Prime. Reverend, first of all, your reaction to this ruling as a man of the cloth.
Well, obviously, we're very disappointed in the ruling. It's not totally unexpected, but we are nevertheless disappointed. We believe this is a ruling that short-circuited, circumvented the democratic process. I think it opens us up to, like it did after Roe v. Wade, 40 or 50 years of further disagreement, because this was not decided by the people. And, of course, we believe that there is an increasing threat against religious liberty, and we saw nothing in this ruling that would make us feel any better about our prospects.
With reference to the ruling, Justice Antonin Scalia used some powerful language in his dissent. His language says, and I quote, "I write separately to call attention to this court's threat to American democracy. Today's decree says that my ruler and the ruler of 320 million Americans coast to coast is a majority of the 9 lawyers on the Supreme Court." Alan, he went on to say this practice of constitutional revision by an unelected committee of 9 robs the people of their most important liberty, the freedom to govern themselves. How would you respond to Justice Scalia?
I would show him his own opinion in the Heller case and the cases involving the right to bear arms, which also robbed the people of the right to make decisions about whether or not pistols and other automatic weapons should be allowed in our city. But he was perfectly comfortable with that. If you asked the framers of our Constitution back 225 years ago whether they thought gay marriage would be accepted as a constitutional right, they would have laughed at you. But I think the same thing would have been true if you had asked the framers whether they would allow semi-automatic guns to be available in large cities. They would equally laugh at you. So, you get the conservative justices perfectly happy to rewrite the Second Amendment to suit their political needs, and then you get the more liberal justices perfectly happy to rewrite the Equal Protection Clause to suit their political needs. There's enough hypocrisy here to go around. 2 points, though. One, Barack Obama deserves no credit for this. He campaigned twice against gay marriage and only suddenly discovered that he had evolved after he was no longer running for election and after the people very overwhelmingly supported gay marriage. Second, the Reverend is right when he says that this should have ultimately been left to the legislatures, but he's wrong when he suggests that this would have put gay marriage in the back burner. I think the trend was very clear. This is a cleanup operation. America is ready for gay marriage legislatively, and it probably would have been better for democracy if that legislative process had been allowed to carry to its fruition. As far as religious liberty is concerned, there's no threat to religious liberty. No minister or reverend or rabbi is going to be stopped from refusing to preside over a gay marriage. Nobody is going to stop them from preaching their sermons in mosques, synagogues, and churches. So I'm not worried at all about religious liberty.
Well, Alan, you may not be, but a lot of us are, because we
Why?
take a look. We'll tell you why. It's one thing to take a look at law and the Constitution, even with the inventive and creative abilities of those who sit on the bench. It's another thing in terms of the enforcement of the laws. And if you take a look at this Justice Department and, shall we say, the energy that has been devoted to certain political causes, if you take a look at some of the cases, in fact, let me bring the Reverend in on this. You know, we had situations in different states dealing with caterers refusing service at weddings and photographers not wanting to offer their services at same-sex weddings. Now there is a concern that this Justice Department may move, and certainly one can envision where a same-sex couple goes to a traditional church demanding to be married in that church, and suddenly you have that case. Is that your concern, Reverend?
Not at all.
Well, I guess I would probably, at least initially, agree with Alan Dershowitz. I don't think out of the gate you're going to find ministers or rabbis being forced to perform same-sex marriages if they don't choose to. But that is not our initial concern regarding religious liberty. You look at someone like Kelvin Cochran, who was the fire chief for the city of Atlanta. He lost his job simply because he wrote a Christian book with views about same-sex marriage that were in disagreement with the city's non-discrimination policy. I think you will quickly see Christian colleges that are under threat of litigation because they will not open up their dorms to same-sex married couples because they don't believe that is legitimate marriage. So I think we're very swiftly going to see, at least along the outer edges of religious exercise, which is what the First Amendment protects, we're very quickly going to see litigation and litigants lining up to sue churches and religious colleges, other institutions that are operated according to religious faith.
Well, I hereby say I will defend any minister, priest, imam, or rabbi who is forced to perform a gay marriage. It simply will not happen. As far as dormitories and that kind of thing, it's very much the same as desegregation racially. Remember that during the pre-Civil War period, many segregationists believed that slavery was ordained by the Bible, the Abrahamic family. You read all the reverends and ministers talking about the right to own slaves as a Christian right, as a religious right. I think some Jews took the same position. Ultimately, when it comes to equal accommodation, when it comes to external issues of fairness, the Reverend is right. There will be some clashes. But, we live in a country where we are very acceptant of religious differences, and no minister will be stopped from preaching against gay marriage or performing gay marriage. But he's right, at the periphery. Now, when you get a case like, for example, a photographer, a caterer, or somebody selling flowers, I want to ask the Reverend a direct question. Do you think there's any religious principle that would prohibit somebody in business from providing flowers to anybody who wants flowers? Do you think there's really a religious prohibition against that, or is that a pretext to bigotry?
It's not a pretext, sir, and I would challenge you to tell me one case in which one of those providers said we will not sell flowers to someone who's gay. What they said was, we do not want to participate in a gay wedding, which is in effect participating with something that we don't agree with.
Gentlemen, it's definitely a hot-button topic, but we're up against the clock, so we're going to have to leave it there. Alan Dershowitz and Reverend Ed Vitagliano, we thank you both for your time. Still to come, feeling sick over Obamacare. Despite yesterday's decision, more court battles await. Betsy McCoy and F.H. Buckley discuss. Later, terror attacks rattle 3 countries, leaving a bloody trail and dozens dead. Patrick Murray has more details. But first, more on today's same-sex marriage ruling and how it may impact 2016. Larry Elder and Ellis Hinnigan join us when Newsmax Prime continues.